So welcome everyone to a new episode of Podium Stories. I have a really special guest in the building today. I'm really excited about this conversation. I think we're going to get a lot of golden nuggets. His name is Edrizio De La Cruz. He's the CEO and co-founder of Arcus, a leading financial technology company working to create better financial health for people around the world. He's a Wharton graduate and founded Arcus in Y Combinator in 2013. Edrizio, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Marty. Really excited to partake on this journey.
Absolutely.
So my name is Edrizios, co-founder and CEO of Arcus. We're building a banking as a service platform for Latin America, built and centered around financial health. A little bit about myself and my journey. I'm from the Dominican Republic. I immigrated to the States when I was 12. I grew up in the South Bronx, spoke no English. At age 18, started college, joined the U.S. Air Force Reserve because I wanted to become a pilot.
Right.
And then ultimately was facing the reality that I had to help my parents make ends meet. At 18, dropped out of college, dropped out of the Air Force, and became an airplane mechanic, if you can believe that.
Wow.
Took on 2 jobs, worked nights and weekends as an airplane mechanic at JFK Airport for 6 years while attending college in the city.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I was 24, I made the leap from airplane mechanic to investment banker, which I became enamored with. Really loved Wall Street, really loved the fast pace. It was a huge shift for me. And then I had the opportunity to attend the Wharton School to get my MBA. Met my co-founder there. And shortly after that, got an opportunity to go to Y Combinator and start the company, Arcus, in 2013.
Right. One thing that I definitely wanted to ask you is, what do you think the United States has different, or does differently as a country that promotes so much opportunity, right? I'm a dual citizen, American and Spanish. And I was born in America, but I was raised in Spain. But when I wanted to go to college and do more, I moved to the United States. So immigrating from the Dominican Republic, how was that transition? And what do you think America provides that is special in the world?
That's a fantastic question. In spite of everything that you're seeing in the news around immigration, which is really positive, American, I think, to me, remains the hub of opportunity for immigrants around the world. And that's because America itself is built around immigrants, right? People that left other countries, were persecuted many times and came to the States to find new opportunities, new freedom. And so very much, I think the basis of America is built around that. Also, America is very much a meritocracy, unlike a lot of countries, like Europe and Latin America, where a lot of it is more of an aristocracy, where it really depends on what family you're born into. In the US, it's legitimate to say that you could literally scale many social classes within a single lifetime. You can start off, as working class and wind up upper class in the same lifetime. That's because access to education, access to opportunity, access to a better career is all at the grasp. And I think Americans do a great job at providing opportunity to those that normally wouldn't get it. I certainly would not have had the opportunity that I had in the States had I stay in the Dominican Republic, which is very much an aristocracy, but it's based on not who you are and what you've done, but it's based on like what family you come from, right?
Right. Yeah, I think as someone who has seen different cultures, you can feel it in the culture that there's a different opportunity sense, and that people look at entrepreneurship and going up, moving up classes in a different way that you see in Europe and other countries. So getting into the FinTech and Arcus more specifically, something that I wanted to mention is, when you guys position yourself as FinTech as a service, and you guys provide different use cases, I would like if you could give me your 2 cents on what that really means for the audience that hears it for the first time.
Yeah, so in layman's terms, we are enabling FinTech to happen in a region that typically didn't have FinTech, and that region is Latin America. As you know, most of Latin America is underbanked. People are very cash-centric. So the first gap in going from cash-centric to digital-centric is allowing people to turn that cash into digital services. So one of the products that we have is called Cash to Digital. We have the broadest network of cash to digital points of sale in Mexico. Work with companies like Walmart, 7-Eleven, Circle K, where anyone can go with cash, deposit cash, and turn that cash into a digital wallet, like a RappiPay or Alvo, Cuenca, any digital wallet you can think of. Right. And that's typically the first step in helping people go from underbank to bank, using the same retailers that they normally would to buy essential services like food. So that's one of our primary services that we have today. Another one is helping people pay their bills on time. Right. So through our infrastructure, any FinTech can help their consumer base pay, manage all their bills inside of their app. Before us, typically you have to go through many places to make those payments manually. But now you can go to one place digitally in your phone to manage and pay all those services.
Absolutely. And when I was reading about your story as a company as well, I said you guys at one point pivoted and went from B2C to B2B. And I'm guessing that was not an easy transition, but what were the lessons that you learned through that? And at what point did you realize, okay, we need to make a change? Yeah,
that was a tough transition, especially being a first-time CEO.
Right.
You become somewhat enamored with the B2C app and the brand and having end consumers as clients. So it was quite painful. I still remember the emails that we got from some of our consumers to say that we decided to sunset the app. Right. I broke down in tears. But it was necessary because we saw B2B, this is back in 2017, as a much bigger opportunity. This is right before the FinTech wave happened in LATAM, so we timed it quite well, but by luck, not by design. And we said to ourselves, look, there's going to be a kind of a tidal wave of FinTech happening in the region. I think the demographics are trending the right way. Venture capital is starting to come into the region. The infrastructure here sucks.
Right.
So let's start building infrastructure. And we started building infrastructure for bill pay. And we built basically the Stripe for bill pay in Mexico, like a very clean RESTful API to pay any kind of utility bill or subscription via one API. And had a ton of success around that. And last year we became a licensed money transmitter. So we can now enable money movement from point A to point B, like the one I mentioned, Cash Digital.
How do you deal with that mentally and pressure, especially at the rock bottom or one of the lowest points? I run my own business, which is way smaller than yours, but it's still not easy mentally. So like, how do you take care of that pressure and responsibility as a CEO?
That's a really great question. I think like being a startup CEO, it's quite challenging from many aspects, not only the mental toll that it takes on you, the psychological wherewithal that it takes. We at Arcus have actually developed 6 core values, and one of those values is grit, mental grit. Mm-hmm. It's kind of one of the first things that we test for every single new hire. Like, does this person have the grit, the wherewithal to overcome all the ebbs and flows? Because the highs are highs, but the lows are really low.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of personal things that I do. I do yoga. I meditate almost every single day. I'm a big follower of Stoicism. Right. Mm-hmm. So Stoicism is my religion. So whatever religion you need to follow. You will need some kind of religion, independent of if you are, secular or not. I think you need something. You do need to live on a higher self, so to speak, to get you through this. And you need a support network. Having a really good co-founding team, a great middle management team, people that can go to bat and go to work for you. And having a good support network outside of the company as well. Have friends that are founders.
Right.
That's typically your first line of defense, because you really can't complain to your investors or your employees or your co-founders. But you can complain to all your co-founders if they understand, and only they understand the journey.
Makes sense. And I do think we can, as CEOs, sometimes we think that we can handle everything ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we have to keep everything to ourselves as well. And being in a place where we can share, I think can relieve of that toll mentally. which is also leads me to somewhere that I want to ask you, as someone who's been on Y Combinator and Wharton, and has been in that environment of other entrepreneurs and founders, did you see them as friends and network, or did also that competition versus them push you to go further?
Yeah, I think having been in places in what I call environments of excellence, I think you learn via osmosis, right? I think you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So you surround yourself with success. You ultimately become success by virtue of being surrounded by those folks. When I was admitted to Wharton, this is back in the last recession. I was unfortunate that it was the toughest class ever to get in. I was fortunate that because it was the toughest class to get in, it attracted a lot of high caliber people, and then me. So I was fortunate to be surrounded with people that were way smarter than me. So I learned more from them than from the professors in my class. And the same held true for Y Combinator. So I just had the great opportunity and great fortune to be surrounded by the top 1% of whatever I was in. When I was a banker, I was surrounded by the top 1% of bankers. JP Morgan. Back in 2005, there was no Google or Facebook to go to. So if you were a top 1% of your class, you would go to an investment bank. And the same thing happened at Wharton. Same thing happened at Y Combinator. So I think I see them less as competition and less as collaborators, people that are going to push you up a little bit more. And those are relationships that I still have to this day.
Did you ever feel out of place as a foreigner coming from the outside? And because I came from Spain and lived a lot of years in the United States, and like because of my accent and a few different things, sometimes I was looked differently. Did you ever feel that happened to you as well?
That's a great question. So at the beginning, I didn't, but that's only because I was too naive to understand.
Yeah, I think that happened to me too.
So at the beginning, I felt like, no, I'm just like everybody else. And the U.S. has its shortcomings, obviously. And I remember this story, this narrative. So one day, this is when I was in banking, we took a bus trip, our entire investment banking class, to a country club. And this was in Connecticut, very polished, very posh country club. And I was wearing a white shirt, black pants, no tie, just like every other analyst was. And I think I was so excited. I was one of the first ones to go check in my blazer. And the lady behind the counter says, "Yeah, they're waiting for you in table 5."
Oh, fuck.
I'm like, "What do you mean table 5? Like, they're waiting for table 5. Like, it's ready to be waited on." I'm like, "No, ma'am. I'm here with I'm here with JP Morgan. I'm one of the bankers."
Gotcha.
Like, oh, okay. And it was like, that's the moment that it dawned on me, like, because it's true. Like, I look more like the wait staff than, the bankers. And up until that moment, I didn't realize I was too naive to understand the differences. And my accent was way tougher, way worse than what it is today. So it took that kind of event to really dawn on me, like, look, you're different. You must behave differently. And you must really excel above everybody else because of that. So I took that to heart, and I really just excelled my performance. I just took it as a challenge, to really be head and shoulders above everybody else in my class. And I wound up being one of the top analysts that year. But yeah, it is different. You're not anyone that tells you that not is too naive to understand the differences. You do look at the society today, right? It tells you very clearly there's a stark difference if you're not traditional American. But again, it's the pros and the cons. The pros and the cons. That's the cons. And earlier I talked to you about the pros. And hopefully for people like you and I, the pros outweigh the cons in the long term.
Right. And I do see this over and over again. People that come from the outside who I was raised by a single mom. I moved to America when I was 17 by myself to play college basketball. And like, it pushes us to like go further, right? Because we see it as a challenge and makes us have to be 120% better than them to be considered 100%.
Exactly.
For sure. Going back to FinTech, and then we can circle back to the role of CEO and entrepreneurship. With COVID-19 and the crisis that's going on, what role do you think FinTech is going to play on that, or how is FinTech going to change over the next few years because of that?
Yeah, so we recently wrote an article about this, how FinTech is helping already. I think in some elements, FinTech has played a big role in the disbursements of funds between the government and small businesses. So that's one way that FinTech has helped. I think one of the ways that FinTech can continue to help is in terms of, the evolution of contactless payments. I think is going to be a common trend to follow. I think in a recession, also people are going to want to reduce how much debt they have. We actually just launched a product today called the Debt Payoff. That's been around since December, and it now processes around, I don't know, something like close to $400 million a year.
Oh, wow.
And that's basically people wanting to pay off high interest credit cards with a low interest loan.
Right.
So we work with several LendTech companies in the US and Mexico to make that happen. So I think that's going to be a common way where FinTechs can help. Another way that can help is just anything that's any kind of branchless banking, where people can do more of the banking from home. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people, even in the US, that still do a lot of branch-centric banking, right?
Yeah.
They think they have to go to a bank to, check their balance, or they think they have to go to the bank to withdraw cash or to pay bills. I think this acts as a forcing function to that lagging part of the adoption curve to finally adopt digital services. So I think that's another way that FinTech is helping as well.
I love that. One thing that, I was, when I heard you on a different podcast, I heard you talk about was the second stage of being a CEO. Right? Yeah. And that's something that, as one myself, with a small team of just 5 people, I was really interested to hear your thoughts and point of view on that, and what it really means to you.
Yeah. So this is from the great folks at Y Combinator. I think you have a good quote. They say, in the first stage, you're working in the company, and second stage, you're working on the company. And I think what they mean by that is really you go from kind of chief doer to doer in chief to kind of manager in chief. You start really building that middle layer of managers that can help amplify your vision and your strategy and execute it. I think that's something that I think most companies struggle with. We ourselves went from about 30 people late 2018 to we're 60 now. So we doubled in size, and we're probably going to have to double in size again after this round that we're closing now, from 60 to 120 next year. And that's actually a bigger challenge than anticipated, because the smarter people you hire, the more demanding that they are. So you have to strike a balance between being autonomous and being there to guide them along.
Right.
So I think that's a tricky balance to straddle, that I myself am still learning. I think a lot of CEOs are still learning when they go between in that phase already. So that second stage of being CEO, it's scary, but it's a good scary, right? Because then your company is growing, you're bringing in great people, you're bringing people that are smarter than you, which also, again, if you're not mentally prepared for that, it can shock you. And if they're smarter than you, they're gonna challenge you, right? And again, you want that to happen. If they're not challenging you, then you're in the wrong room, right? So if you're the smartest person in the room, get the hell out of there, because you don't need to go somewhere else. That's been my cue in life. I was not the smartest guy at JP Morgan. I was not the smartest guy at work.
Makes sense.
I'm definitely not the smartest guy at Y Combinator, so I know it's the right place. So you want people that are going to challenge you just the right amount. And I think that's just part of the evolution of being a CEO.
Right. One of the challenges, I'm guessing, that comes with growing exponentially is fostering a culture that is maintained throughout the whole company when you go from 30 to 60 or 60 to 120. So what's some quick advice that you could give another CEO going through that you've learned over the last few years?
That's a really good question. I think in terms of culture sustainability, it needs to be something that's very organic to you. Don't just go on Amazon's website or Zappos website. They have a great culture. You just copy paste their principles. And it's something that's very true to you. I think most of a startup's culture is a reflection of the CEO's personality. Mm-hmm. So you need to know yourself very well. So if you do know yourself very well, I think it'll come up very organically and people will adhere to it. I think at Arcus, people have really taken the 6 principles that we have in stride. When you walk into our offices, you see the 6 principles plastered across the walls. We give, actually, we have something called Hey Taco, which is you give somebody a taco every time that they do something for you. And we have a hashtag for every principle. So if you do something, you stay up late, we say, thank you for staying up late. Hashtag grit, right? So it's a way of reinforcing the culture of what we are, who we do, what we stand for inside the company. It's something that has to be, you have to live it. You can't just talk about it. You got to walk it.
Makes sense. And the last question that, a couple more questions I wanted to do before I wrap this up. You talk about like seeing your mother struggle and work for things that's shaping you a lot. And that's something that I see in many entrepreneurs, how their mother really had a big influence on them. And I was wondering if you could talk to me about how she shaped you as well.
Yeah, so I love my mom. She worked, so I didn't live with my dad until I was 12 when I migrated to the States. So she and my aunt, God rest her soul, raised me. Mm-hmm. I was raised by 2 women. So I saw her make a huge sacrifice leading an executive job in the Dominican Republic to basically become a babysitter in the US, and then trying to be an entrepreneur herself. So I kind of witnessed that entire ebbs and flows of being kind of this high educated executive, then becoming a babysitter, then kind of becoming self-made entrepreneur. And for me, the way I saw it is like, if this person is willing to take that huge sacrifice, for me, I have to perform at even level. Like she was my first investor, basically, right? And she invested not with financial capital, but with human capital. Yeah. So I think I needed to kind of have a very high ROI, and I felt indebted for that sacrifice. So I kind of always kept that in the back of my head, that kind of healthy amount of pressure that if somebody was willing to make that big of a sacrifice, you need to repay for that debt.
Makes sense. I love that. And I feel the same way. Just seeing your mom like get up at 6 in the morning to go to work, come back at 11 p.m. It just, if I'm not doing it, what the fuck? How am I?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, she did that for me, and now I'm waking up at 10 or 12. Like, and the last question that I want to ask is a very selfish question. I have a growing business that I actually went away from America to Spain to start my business because it was cheaper to live here. But my idea before the crisis was to go back to New York and keep growing my business there and my network. So what advice would you give me to do just that? To when I move to New York, what are the things that you would recommend me to do to keep growing my business, my network, and striving for more?
Well, I think a lot of what we talked about, right? So I think surround yourself with people that are where you want to be in a year, right? That's something I do all the time. I surround myself with CEOs that are better than me.
Right.
Straight up. Like I know, like I friends of mine that I know that are just one notch above me. And I know by talking to them, I'm just going to get closer to that level and ultimately surpass them. Like I'm constantly picking their brains. How do you do this? How do you hire? How do you fundraise? What's your pitch? What do you think about this? Right. Tell me, and keep a very open mind and be vulnerable, right? Show an area of vulnerability. And I think people are willing to help when you show a degree of vulnerability. So I'm constantly figuring out ways where I can just pick their brains and just surround myself with enough smart people and trust myself to just get better and get at their level. And that's, learning by osmosis has been kind of, you're the average of the people you spend the most time with. So just learning by osmosis has been one of the key catalysts of my whole life. Right. I'm not smart. I just figure out how to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, which is not that hard. And being vulnerable, like be understanding, like, okay, you have certain gaps. How do you bridge those gaps? And I think people will be very willing to help you if you let them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's been one of my key elements that I've done throughout my life. Just keep surrounding myself with people that are just one notch above me, and ultimately I catch them.
I love that. Edrizio, I want to be respectful of your time. I think we could do this for an hour.
Thank you, Marti.
I appreciate you so much being here. Where can people reach out to you? Maybe your company's website?
Yeah, absolutely. On my Twitter at Edrizio Cruz. Follow me, shout me out. Love to stay in touch.
Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. Feel free to subscribe and share or not, whatever you want. And we appreciate you so much, Edrizio.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.